Amen. We looked at Prophets and Kings, page 572, paragraph 2. And the paragraph read, during the reign of Cambyses, the work of the temple progressed slowly, and during the reign of False-Murdis, which in Ezra chapter 4 verse 7 is called Artaxerxes, the Samaritans induced the unscrupulous impostor to issue a decree forbidding the Jews to rebuild their temple in their city. So that's where False-Murdis is mentioned in the scriptures. It's in Ezra 4:7, but it doesn't even use his name, it uses the name Artaxerxes. Just one more. 4 BC, 1175, paragraph 8. Bible Commentary, volume 4, page 1175, 1175, paragraph 8. The Samaritans tried to hinder this work. By their false reports, they aroused suspicion in minds easily stirred up to suspect. Because of this discouragement, the Jews became unbelieving and indifferent in regard to the work that the Lord had signified he would have done. They were opposed by Smerdis, the usurper. So here it's called Smerdis the usurper, not False-Murdis. Then ceased the work of the house of God, which is at Jerusalem. So it ceased until the second year of the reign of Darius, king of Persia. So under the third king, the work essentially stops, and it's only reintroduced in the reign of Darius, the fourth king. And that was Ezra 4:24 we just quoted from. So Orell and White quotes from Ezra 4:7-4. So if we went to verse 23, when the copy of King Artaxerxes' letter was read before Rehum and Shemaiah, the scribe, and their companions, they all went in haste to Jerusalem unto the Jews and made them to cease by force and power. So this Artaxerxes, verse 23, is the same Artaxerxes in verse 7, and it's not Artaxerxes, the 457 one, the one that we're all familiar with, the seventh king. This is the third king. And then they stopped working, so the house ground to a halt, the reconstruction work, and it only begins in the second year of the reign of Darius. We read from 4 BC, 1175, paragraph 8. And then we went to the Bible. We'd previously read Ezra 4:7, now we've just read Ezra 4:23 and 24. The king is called Artaxerxes. So, if there's no questions, we'll move on. We only went to, there's just two, I wanted us to use it as an exercise in how we'd approach reading our Bibles, as opposed to learning any particular history or any piece of prophecy. Someone asked me, I can't remember who it was, this is Samaria. Can we make some kind of application of the destruction of Samaria to the church today, the Seventh-day Adventist Church? I don't know whose question that was. Yeah, do you remember how you framed the question?
I was asking if you could apply that story to Adventism today, and then I guess the rebuilding of the temple to the movement.
Yes, you can. So this is a slight digression. We've looked at 7 Persian kings, so hopefully we're okay with that. We spoke about the destruction of Samaria. We saw that in Isaiah 28, if we're okay with that, the destruction of Samaria. So if this was the line of Ephraim or Israel, this would be a line of 10 kings. Sorry, 10 tribes. It's a king for each tribe. And there's another line underneath this, which is the line of 2 tribes. Are we okay with that? 10 tribes in the north, 2 tribes in the south. Okay with that, Brother Jeffrey? Who are the 2 tribes in the south? What's the capital called? The capital here is Samaria. What's the capital in the south? Brother Douglas? Okay, so this is Jerusalem and this is Samaria. You okay with that? Brother Larry, do you know the name of the 2 tribes?
I think one was Judah.
One is Judah, good. In fact, most of the time it's only just called Judah. They don't even mention the second tribe. That's why some people aren't even familiar with it. It always seems like it's just one tribe. They seem to dominate everything. But it's Judah and another tribe. You're not sure?
Not sure.
Sister Daniela? It's Benjamin, it's tribe of Benjamin. So it's Judah and Benjamin in the south and the remaining 10 tribes in the north. So let's just pick up the names of some kings. So just remind us, Sister Denise, what's your question?
You can make the application to modern day Adventism and the rebuilding of the temple as the movement.
Okay, so if we're okay with that, it was particularly to do with the 10 tribes, remember? Mm-hmm. So this is Samaria. Samar. E or A? Yeah? IA? Okay. And this is Jerusalem. If we're okay with that. Remember, when we talk about the rebuilding of the temple, Sister Denise, it's not up here. It's down here, yeah? So it's 2 separate stories. So we just need to be careful about that, because part of the question was, is the destruction of Samaria, can it be linked to Adventism? But then you added the restoration of the temple.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that you see that it's actually 2 different stories that you're dealing with. The rebuilding of the temple would be connected to this story, not this one back here. 2 independent stories. You see that? So let's put the names of some kings. Some of them I'll just give, some of them we'll look up. So if we go to Isaiah, we're in the book of Isaiah. So what we want to do, I'm guessing Elder Tabo has mentioned this, when you're dealing with parables, you go from the natural to the spiritual, and depending upon what you're doing, the natural is often, or could be, a story, like an Old Testament story. Yeah, did you do something along those lines? Yeah, it could be a real life story. Often it's an Old Testament story. So you go to the Old Testament to find what the story is about, the context or the history that's going on. So we're in Isaiah and we want to understand Isaiah's history or the context in which he's living. So we go to chapter 1, verse 1, and it will tell you the context of Isaiah's ministry, the times in which he's living, basically. Are we okay with that? We understand why we're going there? Yeah, so Sister Ruth, if you read verse 1 to us.
The vision of Isaiah, the son of Amos, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah.
So it mentions a number of kings. How many kings have we got there? 4 kings? Yeah? So it goes from Uzziah to Hezekiah. I'm assuming that most of us are not familiar with at least the first 2 kings, but maybe we're surely going to have some information or some knowledge about Hezekiah. He's pretty famous. Hezekiah. Yeah, so we've all heard of Hezekiah. We probably would have heard of Ahaz because we read about him in the class before, didn't we? Isaiah 7. If you just flip over to Isaiah 7, we looked only at verse 9. But if you go to verse 1, Isaiah 7:1, it says, "It came to pass in the days of Ahaz, the son of Jotham, the son of Uzziah, king of Judah." Isaiah 7:1, yeah? We only read verse 9. So the story that we were talking about there, which was connected to Isaiah 28, is a story of Ahaz. Coming back to chapter 1, verse 1, Ahaz is Hezekiah's father, and Hezekiah is the king that had some kind of infection or boil or something, tumour on his leg. He was about to die. God said, "Get your house in order," and he prayed or cried, and God gave him extra life, so he lived a little bit longer. And then the sun stops, the Babylonians come to have some interaction, he exalts himself, and then God pronounces a curse or a punishment upon him for his pride. We're all familiar with that story? So we've got 4 kings. Hezekiah, Ahaz, Jotham, and Uzziah. So there are 4 kings in the the ministry of Isaiah. Just want to look at a couple of other people. So we'll go to Hosea. It's the book directly after Daniel. Someone read chapter 1, verse 1. Brother Jeffrey, can you read Hosea 1:1?
The word of the Lord that came unto Hosea, the son of Beeri, in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, and in the days of Jeroboam, the son of Joash, the king of Israel.
Okay, so what have we learnt about Hosea when we deal about his ministry?
Like, from that verse?
Just from the verse. Let me ask a different question. When was Isaiah's ministry?
I'm not quite sure.
We read it, Isaiah chapter 1, verse 1. I've put it on the board. Someone read Isaiah 1:1.
The vision of Isaiah, the son of Amos, which he saw concerning Judah.
We'll stop for a second. So listen out for the kings, and you read Hosea 1:1. You read it silently as she's reading Isaiah 1. You look at Hosea 1, she reads Isaiah 1. Okay?
And Jerusalem
What do you notice, Brother Jeffrey?
He was before them, or during, his ministry was during the days of them, that they were around.
And what about Isaiah? When was Isaiah around?
Before them,
Before them?
I think so.
Read it again.
The whole verse.
No, just Putin.
Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah.
So
And during.
So they're there at the same time. So the prophet Hosea, his ministry is in the exact same time period as Isaiah. Okay with that? So we have Isaiah and Hosea. They're ministering at the same time. Any questions on that? What additional piece of information did we get, Brother David? Hosea 1:1 that we didn't get in Isaiah 1:1.
We got the name of another king that was reigning in Jerusalem.
Look carefully.
Sorry, I just got to the
So we get the name of a fifth king. There's another king that's mentioned.
in the days of Jeroboam, who was the son of Joash.
A little bit more,
Okay.
I think it says.
The king of Israel.
King of Israel.
Yes.
So can we see in that one verse it distinguishes between Judah and Israel? We can see that? It says the kings of Judah and Jeroboam the king of Israel. So Israel and Judah are now split. So we've called these 10 tribes previously, what have we called them? Brother Douglas? Ephraim. Now we're calling them Israel. So we've got Israel and Judah, or Ephraim and Judah. Okay with that?
Yep.
And it says he's ministering in the reigns of these 4 kings, but now it just adds Jeroboam. We can see that? So we're not going to do a chronology class, but we know that Jeroboam must be reigning at the same time at least where some of these kings are. And I'm suggesting, just the way the verse is given, it begins with Uzziah down in the south, and it only mentions one king in the north, Jeroboam, and there I would say that Jeroboam is going to be at the same time as Uzziah. So I'm going to put Jeroboam here. So it's only mentioned one king, Jeroboam. Jeroboam doesn't go all the way through, but it's just giving us an anchor point that Uzziah and Jeroboam are reigning at the same time. Any questions on that? No?
It says, Jeroboam the son of Joash.
Yes, so it's given his father's name, but it's during Jeroboam's reign, not his father's. David?
Yeah, just going back to what we're studying earlier on, it's interesting to see that in Isaiah 7, which is the chapter we're looking at, we're trying to find out who Pekah was, who the son of Remaliah was, and found it to be Pekah. And if you look in Isaiah 7, verse 1, is the beginning of the chapter, it tells you who the son of Remaliah was, Pekah. So
Yes.
I just wanted to point that out.
Yes,
So,
we didn't have to guess, it tells you in the verses.
yeah.
So we just want to go to, I think it's 2 Kings. We'll go to 2 Kings chapter 18. Second Kings chapter 18, and we'll look at verses 9 and 10. 2 Kings 18, verses 9 and 10. Are you there, Brother Larry? Why have we gone to these verses? You have a quick read and tell me why we've gone there. Make sure we're in 2 Kings, not first.
Hoshea, the son of Elah, king of Israel was?
Good. Everybody see that? So we went in the book of Hosea 1:1, we connected the southern king with the northern king. And now we've gone to 2 Kings 18 and we've connected a southern king with a northern king. But it's not the first king now, it's the last of those series of fours. So it's the great-grandson, I think. So Uzziah was the first, he connects with Jeroboam, and now it says Hezekiah is connecting with Hoshea. Are we okay with that? Yeah? So we can connect these kings this way. And somewhere in here is Pekah. Yeah, somewhere in this history is Pekah, somewhere in there. Yeah, because Ahaz was here and Pekah is up here. You okay with that? Ahaz and Pekah would be here. So we've got 4 kings and we've got at least 3, but there are more than 3 kings. Everything okay with that, Sister Wendy? Okay? Let me just see if we want to do something else. Oh, in 2 Kings 18, it specifically tells you about Samaria. So this is the destruction of Samaria by the Assyrians. We'll read verse 9. It came to pass in the 4th year of King Hezekiah, which was the 7th year of Hoshea, son of Elah, king of Israel, that Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, came up against Samaria and besieged it. So this is the threat of Isaiah 28 verse 2. Isaiah 28 verse 2, it speaks about the drunkards of Ephraim, and it says someone is coming in 28:2 who is going to be like an overwhelming flood or a storm, and is going to destroy. Everybody okay with that? We didn't read 28:2, but that's the gist of what it was teaching. So Isaiah 28:2 is 2 Kings 18 verses 9 and 10. We can see that? So Isaiah 28:2 is the same history as 2 Kings 18, 9 and 10. Would that make sense, Sister Ruth? Okay, so if we were to go through these kings and list them out, we could search them through the scriptures, but I don't know if anyone's got a chronological list or access to one. If you have a study Bible, I don't know how many of you have got study Bibles. If you have a study Bible, it has that listing there. It's at the back of your Bible. Hey there, Sister Wendy.
Israel and Judah.
Yeah, are you there?
One's on beside each other.
Yeah. Okay, so you look for Jeroboam. Be careful because there's 2. You're going to need to find the Jeroboam that's lining up with Uzziah. You found that? Should be towards the bottom. Okay, go to Hoshea. Try to do it yourself if you can, with that help.
The name is different.
You've got different names?
There's Uzziah in parentheses.
We got Hoshea, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll go with Hoshea. So we've got Hoshea. Start counting back. Name them as we go back. We've got Hoshea.
Pekah.
Okay, so there's Hoshea and Pekah, Hezekiah and Ahaz. Pekahiah. So we've got Hoshea, Pekah, Pekahiah,
Menahem,
Menahem,
Shalom,
Shalom,
Zechariah,
Zechariah,
Jeroboam.
and Jeroboam. So we'll put a number 2 here. Everybody familiar with Dan and Bethel and the golden calves that were made? Yeah? So that's all to do with this history. So you've got Jeroboam 2. There was another Jeroboam back here, Jeroboam 1. So how many kings is this, Sister Denise?
Total, or that she just added?
That she just listed out?
4.
More than 4. Read them out again for us.
Starting with Hoshea.
Either way, backwards or forwards.
I'm just counting the new lines.
Hoshea, Pekah, Pekahiah, Menahem, Shalom, Zechariah, Jeroboam 2.
So if you just count the new lines, it was 4 plus 3. Remember, if I had 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, you said the new ones that we just added. How many did we have? We had Jeroboam 2, Pekah and Hoshea.
7.
So we've got 7. Okay, so we've got 7 kings of Israel. And we've already done a story about what? Brother Douglas? We were doing a story before about what? When we did Ezra 4:7, 4:23. Which kings were those?
Those are the kings of Hajj.
And how many kings were there?
17.
7 kings. It's okay?
Yeah, I was asking what verse she read it from, but it was from a list.
It's from a list, yeah, it's not that straightforward. So we've already done a story of 7 Persian kings, and now we've done a story of 7 Israelite kings. Okay with that? So you've got 7 Persian kings, 7 Israelite kings. Hezekiah's son, this person here, is whom?
I only know, I can't remember his name, I know he was 12 when he started to be on.
Sister
What's his name?
Daniel? Sister Rachel?
So was it right?
Yeah,
George?
not Joash, not Josiah. Sister Juliana? Sister Catherine?
Manasseh.
Oh, you looked in your book? Good. Manasseh. Okay, so without looking, Sister Wendy, let's go.
That's the one I knew. Keep going?
Mhm.
Oh, I don't know.
Did you know any names?
No, I haven't studied that.
Okay. Sister Ruth? No? Okay, Sister Rachel. We'll go with Manasseh.
Probably going over to the end.
You gave me the names, that's why I'm asking you. You gave me a name before that. No? Reverend Douglas?
I revised last night. It's Manasseh, and then we have Ammon, and then Josiah, Jehoahaz, Jehoiakim, Chin, Zedekiah.
Okay. So it's not important, but it's not chin.
Jehoiakim.
It's kin.
Kim, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's not important. But a lot of people, because it's ch, they make it ch, but it's actually k. Jehoiakim, and then Zedekiah. Sister Denisa, how many kings is that? 7 kings. So you begin to notice a pattern. We've got this pattern of 7 kings.
Sorry, what were the 7 of the first, were the 10 tribes?
Of these ones,
Yeah, Jeroboam.
it's Jeroboam, Menahem, Zechariah, Menahem, Shalom, Pekahiah, Pekah, and Hoshea. I might have got the list, might have got me in the wrong order.
Name those again for Jerusalem, like different names. I don't remember all the
Okay.
several letters.
Just read them out. Jeroboam 2,
Jeroboam 2, Zechariah,
Yeah.
Shalom, Menahem, Pekahiah, Pekah, Hoshea.
okay. So what we'll do is someone with good handwriting, at the end of the class, maybe in the break or something, they can just write all the 14 kings on the board. In fact, they could do the whole 21 kings. 7 Israelite kings, 7 Judean kings, 7 Persian kings. We'll have them written out so you can all either take a picture or write them down in your notes. Yeah?
Are the Persian kings the last 7, or is that all the kings of Persia, or what is that?
Okay, let me have a look for something. Sometimes I don't remember how to pronounce it. Okay, so I don't know if my pronunciation is correct, but I'm going to say it's the Achaemenid dynasty or Achaemenid Empire. So we would know it more as the Persian Empire. Now Persia has been around for a long time before Cyrus. He's not the first Persian by any means. But he's the first of a new dynasty or empire called the Achaemenid Empire. And if Cyrus is the first, and we've listed out those 7 kings, so therefore those 7 kings are the beginning of that Persian Empire, not the end. Okay?
For the Jerusalem one,
Yes.
I don't see just 7 kings there.
Oh, have I
More
done?
than 7.
Oh.
Why are we?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
That's always Uzziah and Jotham and Ahaz.
This is the 7 beginning from Manasseh.
So they're the last kings.
Because here, you don't see 7 kings. There's a whole heap of kings back here that I didn't list out.
So you're basing on the last kings of the northern and the southern.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. But I just want us to see that there's these last 7, and these last 7, and the beginning of the 7 Persian kings. So there's these 7s that keep on coming up. Yep. So, what happens in the reign of Zedekiah? Sister Denise? The line ends, and it's a story of Jerusalem. Okay, so what happens in this line of Samaria when you get to Hoshea? So it gets destroyed. So we know that there's a destruction here. And the same thing happens here. So at the end of these 7 kings, you get a destruction. So if we were to run this line further down all the way through, you'd go from the destruction of Jerusalem to the captivity into Babylon, which I think we're all familiar with. Then they come back out of captivity. Who brings them out of captivity? Brother Jeffrey, who brings them out of captivity?
Babylon?
Yeah.
Moses?
Not Moses. Moses is back here.
I don't remember.
So, if we go to the book of Ezra, chapter 1, verse 1. Have a quick read of that. And what's verse 1 saying in your own words?
From what I'm getting, it's saying spirit of Cyrus, and made a proclamation.
Try and run it as a sentence as opposed to bullet point it, please.
So Cyrus is the king of Persia. Sorry. Cyrus is the king of Persia. The Lord spoke some words to Jeremiah. The Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, and then Cyrus made a proclamation throughout his kingdom and put it also in writing.
Okay. Sister Juliana, could you do it as well, please? Ezra 1:1. Tell us what that verse is saying.
So the Lord, in my word, right?
Yes, please.
I don't really understand when he says, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus.
Okay, so you're not sure what that bit means.
Yeah.
Okay, Sister Daniela, what does that mean? The Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus. First of all, tell us what stirred up means.
To move in someone, the Lord,
To move in someone?
yeah, made him influence them.
Just the phrase stirred up.
Made him.
Made him? Brother James, stirred up?
The definition or what I think?
Yeah, what you think it would mean.
Made compassionate, brought to his mind.
Made compassionate, brought to his mind, Sister Denise?
Just wondering if you're meaning literal or what it, like what does stir up mean, like mixing something in a bowl or?
Okay, so it means, to stir up means to mix something up. Yeah? To agitate. So, sorry?
Arouse.
To arouse. So, you go somewhere to a city, and it's all a sleepy, drowsy city, and someone like Paul would stir up the situation. The Bible says he turns the world upside down. So stir up means to cause agitation. Brother Douglas?
Bring it to action.
To bring something into action. So then it says the spirit of Cyrus. What is Cyrus's spirit, Sister Daniela?
His mind.
His mind. Okay, so we'll go with that. So stir up the spirit means agitated his mind. Okay, so do the verse.
So the Lord made Cyrus do something.
Okay, so the Lord made Cyrus do something, and there's just a little bit more I want you to add about Jeremiah. So the Lord made Cyrus do something.
Yeah. Jeremiah said something that stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, that agitated the mind of Cyrus.
Okay, so Jeremiah said something that's going to agitate Cyrus.
Yeah,
How does Cyrus know about Jeremiah?
I don't know.
You said that's what it says.
Yeah, from my perspective.
Okay. Sister Ruth,
I would go with Daniel.
so you have a...
I'm saying I would think that Daniel was the one who was.
Yeah, just tell us what the verse says,
What it was.
not to embellish it with
Um,
pre-knowledge.
um,
Sorry? I didn't hear what you said.
I'm not sure what your question was.
Oh, I'd like you to just use the words in the verse, not what Daniel's role in this story is.
Okay. So we see, it says that Jeremiah, it looks like Jeremiah had written something about fire before, and now Cyrus is being aware of what God had said about him through Jeremiah.
Okay, so it uses the word fulfill. Does anybody know what tautology is? The word tautology. Who's guessing? Who's going to guess?
Okay.
Did you say you were going to guess?
Yeah.
Guess, and then Brother David can guess. Tautology.
Tautology. Completion in fullness of.
It's similar, yes, you're getting there.
Tautology?
Someone have a look on their dictionary. Have a guess.
I thought it meant using too many words to explain something.
Okay, it's very similar to that, using too many words. You're right. It's a literary style, tautology, and it basically is using too many words. So if you're using too many words, that means the words are redundant. Yeah, there's a redundancy. So we've got the definition up there. Okay. So Sister Wendy, give us the definition of tautology.
The saying of the same thing twice in different words.
Okay. So you're saying the same thing, which means
Using too many words.
too many words. You only need to say it once. So if it's, how did you say it?
The saying of the same thing twice in different words.
The same thing twice in different words. What do we call that, Sister Catherine? Repeating yourself, but what do we call it? Because we're Bible students. What do we call it? We call it repeat and enlarge. Now if I said woe, woe, Sister Denise, what would you call that? Woe, woe. Repeat. But it said?
The same thing in different words.
So woe, woe, what's the problem with that? And the same words. So I'm repeating myself, but I'm not using two different words. So it's a repeat for sure, but it's not a tautology, because a tautology is when you repeat it with different words. So if we went to a Bible verse, I think it said, the crown of pride and the drunkards of Ephraim. What did we say that was? Repeat and enlarge. Is it the same words? No. So it's a tautology. Okay, which is a repeat and enlarge. So when we say repeat and enlarge, Sister Denise, what does enlarge mean?
Expound.
Good. It means to expound or expand on what you've said the first time. So you're going to say the same thing again. You're going to repeat what you said, but you have to use different words. So a repeat and enlarge, if you want to look at what literary style that is, it's not something that we invented. We say, oh, we found this repeat and enlarge. It's actually got a technical name. It's called tautology. So I think it's worth just knowing that. Chapter 1, verse 1, Ezra. Is there one in here? Is there a tautological word? Is there a tautology here in this? Tautology means to repeat something. Who can find it? This has got nothing to do with our study, by the way, but I just think it's interesting. I just will share interesting things with you. Hopefully you'll find them interesting. Okay, if you're reading over that much, you're overlooking it. It's really easy.
Be the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah.
I thought you were going to get to it. Just shout out anyone. If
Be fulfilled.
Okay, take the might be out.
By the mouth, Jeremiah.
No, just you said 3 words. You said might be.
Fulfilled,
Okay, so I said take the might be out.
so then just have fulfilled
Okay, go with that.
by itself.
Yeah. It's past tense. Take the past tense out. What does the word become?
Fulfilled,
Okay, go with that. Tell me what that means.
to make it come to pass.
No, not that way. Look at the word. Look at the word and tell me what the word means.
What the word fulfill means.
Don't give me your dictionary definition. Give me what the word itself means.
The word itself not in context to the verb.
Not in context, not anything like that. Just the word
To make
fulfill.
whole or to complete.
Okay, so first of all, if I said this, is that a word?
Oh, I see. You're splitting it up. The word up.
Carry on.
Full and fill.
Full and fill. What does full mean?
I got it. Yeah.
So I have a glass and I tell you to do what?
Fill it up.
Fill it up.
Oh, yeah.
So it looks like that, yeah? Okay, this word. What's that going to look like?
Same thing.
So it's a tautology, it's a repeat and enlarge. The word itself, fulfill. It's a doubling.
How is it a repeat and enlarge and not just a repeat?
It's different words.
Oh,
It didn't say that the word of the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled or fulfilled. It says fulfilled, and it's superfluous, it's needless. You don't need to say fulfilled, because it would be just as crazy to say he fulfilled it. A tautology is basically a waste of time. It doesn't give any information. You're just repeating yourself using different words. But when we take that concept, we make great play of a tautology. It's the different words that help us to do that. Okay, so just to introduce you to the word tautology, if you haven't heard of it before, this word fulfilled means it really is filled. That's why you use a tautology, because you want to hammer the point. You really want to reinforce it, to not just say it was filled, it had come to its completion. It really was. So the word fulfilled means what? Now tell us what it means.
full.
Oh, no, not that definition. No, in the way that we would use it in this kind of biblical term. What is it?
Being brought to pass.
Brought to pass. Okay, Sister Catherine, what were you going to say? Brought to pass is correct, but I want to just give a different nuance to it. What happens? We're filling the cup up, and we're here. What do you say to the person? Fill it up until, and then when it's got to that level, what do you say? You stop. So what does fulfilled mean?
Fill to the brim.
No, not the symbology now, the way we're going to use it in a biblical term. It means come to pass, but it means more than just come to pass.
To an end.
Come to an end.
To a complete end.
Okay?
I don't know if that's tautology.
Okay, so the word fulfilled means come to an end. So something has ended. Are we okay with that? So Wendy, could you explain that again for us?
He said to come to an end, fulfilled, come to a completion.
Oh, you ask her. She's looking blank face, so it doesn't work, I don't think. She wasn't
I
smiling.
get that. But like the way he used where the water is up to the room and then
You can't pour any more in, so
it's down to the, okay, that's
You okay with that? Brother Douglas?
You can't pour any more in, and there's no more to be poured in. Oh no, you said there's more to that.
No, the cup is full now. That you can't do, anything else would be a mess. It would. The job has come to. The job has been completed.
So then you don't even have any more to pour on top, but it's exactly
Yeah.
this is what you have. It's gonna fill the cup to the top, and you
The task was to fill the cup up, and you've come to the end of filling up. Anything more would be a different task. Would be spilling over. It's not, the job is being completed.
and just what I'm saying that there's no more to put because whatever you have fills that cup to the end. There's even no more. If you had more, but there's no more. Everything.
I'm not sure if the symbology we would do that, because you could have a jug full of things. You could have a big jug of water, but the task was to fill the cup up. That has come to its full. Doesn't mean you couldn't do more. Yeah? Okay, so back to you, Sister Juliana. Do the verse again for us now.
Oh, so, but I didn't already.
Yeah, but I just want to add this idea of Jeremiah and fulfilled, etc. Because we just want to add that refinement in.
Not mentioned.
And just repeat what you said before.
Maybe you read somewhere.
Okay, I don't know, I'm not asking how Cyrus knows. I'm not interested how he knows. Because it doesn't tell you how he knows. But it does tell you something about Jeremiah.
What?
So start from the beginning, however you're going to start it.
Jeremiah said something that there was accomplished and there's gonna be that has to be accomplished in the
Okay. And what is going to be accomplished?
what it says.
Which was what?
Oh, I don't know.
So you said before you'd already given the answer. So now what you said before was correct, but you've just got to add this bit into it. So we have a holistic perspective of the whole verse. It's really important that we learn how to read verses. And we think that we normally think that we do, until we're pressed to do it and to reword it, and then we realise actually we're not fully conversant with what these words are saying. So it's not that easy an exercise.
The Lord made Cyrus do something. Do what Jeremiah said.
Okay, that's how you want to do it. Okay, Sister Effie, I'm not sure how much of that you were. I don't remember when you came into the room. Did you come into the room when before we got to 1:1 or after we'd got here? Okay, so you're not totally familiar with what we're doing?
No, I'm trying to
Catch up. Okay. Sister Denise, do you want to have a go? Tell us what this verse says.
What, just read what it says?
No, don't just read what it says.
What it's talking about?
The problem that each of us are confronted with, we get little bits of here and we think we know what it's talking about. The spirit is the mind. Stirring up means to agitate. We say, okay, agitate the mind. So we got that little bit. Then we look at fulfilled, which means come to an end. We got that little bit. When we first approached it, people would either miss parts of the verse or just say, I don't even know what this verse is talking about. And I said, why don't you know what it's talking about? It's English. We can all read English. What's the problem? So people say, I don't know what stirred up the spirit means. So we break that little bit down. I added the bit about fulfilled. So we can get those little bits. Now I want to not break the verse down. I want to bring it all together and for someone to read out what that verse is saying in their own words. And it's not as easy as we think to try and incorporate all the bits that are there, but to actually understand what is going on. Because when you say it in your own words, then you know that the person actually understands what's written there.
I think it means that the Lord is fulfilling the prophecy through Cyrus, but it's not a complete thought to me in verse 1. It continues into.
Okay, what he writes is in the following verses, for sure. So I just want verse 1. So just repeat what you think. All the little bits in verse 1 are, because what you missed there was the stirring up of the Spirit. You didn't add that bit in. There's a lot of encoded information in that verse if we're prepared to spend some time digging into it. And the way we can do that is by rephrasing it. And every time, if you rephrase every part of the verse and you do it well, you'll get a comprehensive understanding of the verse. So that's why I'm pushing for us to try not to skip bits.
He's fulfilling a prophecy by impressing his mind with the words of the prophet Jeremiah. As far as I can tell.
Okay, but that's a lot further than you began with. Yeah? Sister Catherine. The whole verse, please, yeah. And when you do, it doesn't have to be in the same sequence as the verse, by the way. Sometimes it's not useful to do that. Sometimes it's useful to pick it up from a different angle or a different start point.
So Cyrus just took the throne in his first year, and he is convicted about the prophecies of Jeremiah and I get for so if you just say
Cyrus decided something, did he?
he says that he gave proclamation, so that makes me think that he decided that something needed to be done.
What made him make that decision?
His conviction,
Brought about by what?
the words of Jeremiah, the prophecies of Jeremiah,
And what does the verse say
the mouth of Jeremiah
after that?
might be fulfilled.
What did God do?
Is
What did God do? The Lord. Okay, so the Lord's bringing conviction to his heart. So we said agitate his mind, and you're saying you're changing the word of agitation into conviction. Yeah? If I understand you correctly? Okay? No, it's not a matter of right or wrong, it's a matter of what your perspective is. So start from the top.
he just took the throne and he heard of the word of the Lord, and he's been convicted about prophecies that Jeremiah made, and that they are coming to pass.
Sister Wendy.
I don't think that Cyrus knew about Jeremiah. From what it says, I feel like the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus to fulfill the prophecy by Jeremiah.
Okay, so you read the verse for us.
In other words,
Yeah.
like she said, it was the first year of Cyrus the king, and the Lord stirred up his spirit, you say, agitated his mind to fulfill the prophecy made by Jeremiah, so that he made a proclamation and also put it in writing.
Anyone else?
I'll give it a try. So Cyrus was the king of Persia, as we've already discussed, and it was in his first year. There was a prophecy that was supposed to be fulfilled because it had been predicted by Jeremiah, and it was given to Jeremiah by God. And in order for that prediction to be fulfilled, at least the beginning of the completion of that prediction of the prophecy fulfilled, Cyrus was the Lord. God brought it to the mind of Cyrus, or put it in his heart, to do something, for which he made a proclamation, or for which that he announced to his kingdom, and also put it in writing. So I read it.
Brother James, I don't want you to do the whole verse. Where would you start?
That the prophecy of Jeremiah might come to pass.
Okay, so you'd start with Jeremiah, not with Cyrus's first year. Anyone else?
I would say Jeremiah's prophecy had come to a complete, or rather it had, the prophecy had has been fulfilled, has come to complete. The time prophecy that Jeremiah had given has come to an end. And that is the time that Cyrus issues a decree, or in writing. Yeah.
Okay? So like Brother James, you would start with Jeremiah. I think I would have done that when I asked you to do your narrative. I think I would have started with Jeremiah. Jeremiah had written a prophecy, and that prophecy has come to its fulfillment or its completion, and then we would describe what the completion looks like when it occurs. It occurs in the first year of Cyrus. In the first year of Cyrus, I think, like Sister Wendy says, I don't think Cyrus reads the Bible. In fact, it's not even the Bible, is it? The book of Jeremiah is not the Bible. The Bible is really just the works of Moses, I would suggest. Maybe one or two other books, not just the 5 books. Probably had the book of Job in there, like you say. So Jeremiah is just a document that's sort of flying around. And so he really wouldn't have read that, which Sister Ruth has left, but which brings in the idea that someone must have told him about that. And I think she's right, that it's probably Daniel that does that. So he gets instruction that him reigning has been predicted, and based upon that he comes under conviction. And by the way, when it said spirit, someone said mind. I don't know if we have a strong thought that there's a difference between mind and heart, but where do you get conviction? I would suggest it's in your heart that you're convicted. You're pierced to your heart, the Bible would, I say, I don't know if it's often, but talks about it in that perspective. So I would think that the Spirit is actually his heart, not his mind. So he gets conviction that he needs to do what? What does he need to do? Make a proclamation? To fulfill the prophecy. He's come under conviction, I better fulfill the prophecy. I don't know how bad his thinking is, or I can get into trouble. Maybe it's not a negative thought, maybe it's a positive thought, maybe he thinks, I just really want to fulfill my role in history. However it is, whether it's positive or negative, his conviction is, I better do what I'm told to do. Everyone okay with that?
I thought you said you didn't know about the prophecy.
We've gone beyond. I'm sure he hasn't read Jeremiah. I don't think he's read Jeremiah. Jeremiah is being fulfilled. The fulfillment of Jeremiah, he's involved in this. It talks about him. And I think I said, as Sister Ruth mentioned, someone has told him about his role in prophetic history. He doesn't have self-awareness, I don't think. She said it was Daniel that had done that. And I just said I concurred with it. It's not in the verse.
So if someone tells him about it, he is aware of it.
Yes, I mean, someone said, oh look, your name's been written here, let me show you. In that sense, he's aware of it. He doesn't say, I'm going to come and destroy Babylon because I've got my scroll from Jeremiah and I'm on a mission. In that sense, he doesn't know him. That's what I meant. Everything that he did was just worldliness, if you like, his own conviction, his own agenda. And once he gets placed in this position, Daniel sees that prophecy is being fulfilled, and Daniel says, by the way, you've done all of this, there's a little bit more that you're supposed to do, which is, I think Brother Jeffrey's gone, which is why we came here, which is this other thing, which is in verse 3. He's not here now, but verse 3, he says, let everyone leave. You can go back home. He doesn't know to do that. I mean, you take over a government or an empire and it's got 50,000 slaves, you don't say, as soon as I go there, I'm going to release the slaves. You might treat them nicely, but no one who takes the kingdom and all the treasures that the kingdom owns, whether they're lives or goods, it's not just going to give them away without a really good reason. So he has no reason to give all the slaves away. Someone needs to instruct him on that. And I'm suggesting or Sister Ruth did, that it's Daniel that says, by the way, your winning Babylon wasn't just your prowess in battle. This is God's will that's being fulfilled. And it was his will that you won the battle. So Cyrus is saying, oh, that's interesting. I thought I was just a good general. He takes it well. He doesn't take it as an insult that maybe he's not a good general, but maybe God just gave it to him. But on top of that, Daniel there says, God gave you the kingdom, but he expects something from you now. He gives you something, you have to give something back. He gave you all these treasures, you need to release some of those treasures. And the treasures that you need to release are the people, his people.
So this is the Cyrus who conquered the city of Babylon,
Yes.
but this must be after that because God's people weren't there at that time.
They weren't where?
They weren't in the city of Babylon
At what time?
when it was conquered
Yeah.
by Cyrus. They were there then.
Remember, not everyone lives in the city of Babylon, they live in the country of Babylon, but Daniel's certainly there. If you go to Daniel chapter 5, the handwriting on the wall, Daniel's there in the palace, he's got his own quarters. The king's mother calls him, to the banqueting feast. Belshazzar says, explain what the passage is. Daniel does that, and I don't know literally as he's reading, but that very night, Belshazzar gets killed while Daniel is in the city.
So did they go to Babylon in 607, or that was only the children? And then turned into another time? When do they go?
Oh, Daniel goes in 606, 607, but it's not the last swathe of people that go. Many more people go.
There's that time, or was it just few other campaigns?
Oh, other campaigns for sure, yeah. So that's Jehoiakim. They go in the reign of Jehoiakim, and they go in the reign of... So if you go to Ezekiel, hopefully this doesn't distract people. Verse 2. Chapter 1, verse 2. Ezekiel 1, verse 2. So, when you said 606, 607, that's Jehoiakim? Yeah? You're okay with, so he lives in the reign of Jehoiakim. Daniel 1:1, in the 3rd year of Jehoiakim. Yeah? So we're now in Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 2. In the 5th day of the month, which was the 5th year of King Jehoiakim's captivity. So Jehoiakim comes after Jehoiakim. On the list, on the board it says. Jehoiakim is going to reign for 11 years. In the 3rd year, so he's got another 8 years of reigning. In the 3rd year, Daniel gets taken captive. He remains king for 8 years after that. He comes to his end, and who becomes the king after him? After Jehoiakim. We just read it in the verse. Jehoiakim. So you have Jehoiakim, Jehoiakim. Jehoiakim is only going to reign for a short amount of time, 3 months, and then he gets taken to Babylon. He becomes a captive of Babylon. So when he goes to Babylon, the king, they're not just taking the one person, they're going to take a whole swathe of people. So people go then. And then in Zedekiah's reign, when they destroy the city, they take a whole heap of other people. So you've got at least 3 times they're going in Jehoiakim, Jehoiakim, and Zedekiah. Good? Any questions?
I saw something interesting. The prophet was here, 557 down. Just to add to what we've been talking about, concerning whether Cyrus read or how he was convicted in his heart.
557.1? Yeah. Deliverance of Daniel from the den of lions had been used by God to create a favourable impression upon the mind of Cyrus. Just cutting down. And now, just at the time, God had said he would cause his temple at Jerusalem to be rebuilt. He moved upon Cyrus as his agent to discern the prophecies concerning himself with which Daniel was so familiar, and to grant the Jewish people their liberty. Yep.
So I think it gives us more color to the picture as to how he was convicted, I guess.
Yes, it's Daniel that's doing that work for him, yes.
I don't know whether we had read that before.
I avoid reading the Spirit of Prophecy until we've tried to work out what the verses teach. Because otherwise you miss things. Because Ellen White doesn't give you all the information that you need to know, especially when it comes to prophetic application. You miss things if you just jump straight to the Spirit of Prophecy, in my experience.
So without this quote, we had come to that conclusion already. Like before I came, you guys had concluded that Daniel...
Some of us already knew that Daniel was involved in that. But in Ezra 1:1, Daniel's not involved in that story, and it just says that Jeremiah's prophecy needed to be fulfilled, and we were just reading what the fulfillment of that was.
So staying within that verse, we will just stick with the fact that the Lord moved upon his heart to do the things that he did so that the prophecy would be fulfilled.
That's correct. And then you just need a small bit of extra information, which would be how does he know what to do to fulfill Jeremiah's prophecy? The verse doesn't give you that information. It's just an extra small piece which you'd get from prophets and kings. But we could have worked that out without even going to the spirit of prophecy. Because if we went to Daniel chapter 6, the lion's den story, we could have, if we had really looked at that carefully, we could have worked that out as well. We wouldn't need this quote to do all of that. We can work all of that out, and often we think that we can't.
The struggles we've gone through in presenting messages, just people they've been accustomed to rejecting spiritual prophecy. They've been accustomed to rejecting spiritual prophecy, so that if you can be able to show it, like this, as you said, and to go the spiritual prophecy, like once we have ascertained what the verse is saying, and we're making an application.
I understand the point that you're making. My objective in a class like this is never to, I'm not trying to make any point about the veracity or the usefulness of spirit of prophecy. I'm not making that point at all. I'm not saying we shouldn't use a spirit of prophecy. I'm not saying we should use a spirit of prophecy. What I want us to do is to learn to think, to get answers. If we were studying the spirit of prophecy, we would do the same there. I say, let's look at the spirit of prophecy. Let's not look at the Bible. Let's just read and study what is in front of us. It's only that objective that I want us to do. At the end, for sure we could expand and round off and mature our understanding by looking at the spirit of prophecy quotes and get a deeper understanding of it. But I think it's far more useful to, if we're going to look at verse 1, just to stay in verse 1. Because if you don't do that, you miss things. Brother Jeffrey, when you were out, we asked a question before about Cyrus, and I can't remember what the question we asked, and you said either you didn't know or you said something. So I said, okay, let's go to Ezra 1. Do you remember what the context of that was? I knew you were going to do that. I was hoping your memory would be better than mine. Who? Oh, go ahead.
You asked who took them back to that country?
Okay, who brought them out of captivity, I think, something like that. Yeah? So the answer is in Ezra 1 verse 3. Ezra 1 verse 3 tells you who brought them out of captivity.
Who brought them? Who's them?
God's people. Brother James? Oh, yes. Can you see that there, Brother Jeffrey? Someone read it? Ezra 1:3.
Who is there among you of all his people? His God be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build the house of the Lord God of Israel. He is the God which is in Jerusalem.
So, verse 1, he writes a proclamation, and verse 3 is the wording of that proclamation. It begins back in verse 2, but verse 3 is the bit that we wanted to. So what he writes down is basically saying, if you're a captive in Babylon and you're a Jew, you need to go back home. They're not the only captives that they've got. They've got captives from many other nations, but it's only the Jews that are allowed to be set free. So he's very specific about that. So it's Cyrus that does that work of freeing the people. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we give you praise and thanks for your goodness. I want to ask and plead with you that you would give us wisdom and understanding in how to study your word. Please direct us to be careful and to be considerate as you try to teach us what these words mean. Help us ever to remember that we are on holy ground. In Jesus' name, amen.